Verstappen is now finding grip on the corners. Magic. We call it magic because we don't know what he's doing. They say that Verstappen is hard on his front tires, and he should have been hurting in sector two, where there's a lot of winding S's. But the paradox is that even though the Red Bull car and the way Verstappen drives is hard on the S's, he's still finding time. He's driving within the car. He he's obviously pacing himself at certain of the track to make sure things even out so that the tires don't wear out. What
Man, I think a brilliant sort of showing from Max in terms of how to use the car when you don't have the fastest car. I think um, with this track, speed is not really, how fast you push the car is not how you win the race. It's how quickly you take the turns. Um, so and how quickly you exit from the corners. And we see sort of Verstappen being marginally faster around
then
around
Russell?
like in terms of how much speed you carry. And so I think there was something to be noted about the front wing sort of adaptation that Red Bull did, that I think really is what showed the difference
Yeah, but
in,
to me, I don't see it as being front wing. I see it as Verstappen because I don't see it with Perez. And they didn't mention any front wing adjustments, did they?
no, they did make some front wing adjust. Well, I
Maybe,
mean,
yeah,
they
maybe
made
that
a lot
helped
of
them.
they made quite a lot of adjustments. Saw them do that in the sprint when they were testing with Perez.
Okay.
Um, that's one of the first things or the main
Well, that
things.
means they did it after the sprint because after the sprint, Verstappen was complaining that the tire front tires were giving out a lot early, and
Yeah,
sector two
yeah,
was a
and
problem.
the car was not turning as
Yeah,
as quickly as he needed it to. So I
yeah.
think I
So they
think
fixed it
that
by
that is
quality. Okay.
yeah, that is
Mhm.
part of what made the
Yeah.
difference. From what we heard even from the team principal is that they did an overall sort of change in terms of car setup. Um, that
But
that
here's my question: how come they don't know that from beginning? At the end of the beginning of the week, for example, Ferrari knew they would suffer here because their characteristics don't have it. How come Red Bull didn't know that their setup was messed up and they had to wait until struggling through free practices and sprint practices? You get what I'm saying? Then they wait to
sure.
the last to the last. I don't understand that. I think part of it is maybe they're getting feedback from Verstappen, which is another thing Verstappen does on weekends. Every weekend, even when he wins, it takes a lot of driving by him before they get the right setup. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. And then if you look at go back to that map,
Okay.
Falabi. Verstappen is the master of these sector twos that have these S's. We can call this an S because it's basically an S. Once you start from when you look at it with all the winding, like I think it's corner 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. When you look at it, that's a very windy SE type of thing, and that's where Verstappen has become the king, and he's able to find. And if you look at him, he's in the dark, and Russell's in the green. Russell has a lot more speed, but if you look at Verstappen, he's dominating those constant slow corners that are slower than other ones because he's getting more of them. He's not getting the apex. Russell's getting the apex, but Verstappen is now once you get past the apex, he's doing that and going into the straight and then going into the next corner. But he's always finding areas to get an advantage. So it seems like just in general, he does very well from throughout sector two as a whole. You can't look at it as one part. The way he manages his energy throughout that whole thing is very good. Even though at times Russell would have advantages at the apexes, but you see that Russell did a lot better. And also, Verstappen did a lot better on the straight in sector three or sector one. I think it's sector one because that's a straight. And we saw from the telemetry in qualifying that Mercedes is not as fast as Haas, Red Bull, and Aston Martin. So that's another advantage and also that's probably a lot of aero efficiency, like you were talking about before, Lorato. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I had said this earlier that Max is fast towards the corners.
Yeah.
Um, he might be slower through the corners, but that gives him faster laps, as opposed to Russell, who
Yeah.
is fast through the corners.
Yeah, and I think it's time for us.
But I
Sorry
think,
to break you very
yeah,
quickly. It's time for us to start saying Russell might be the fastest man in F1, even faster than Leclerc now. The way he's driving corners. Continue. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, and I think Mercedes was losing out in terms of acceleration a bit, because normally we see them being very fast
Yeah, they
throughout
didn't have.
in terms of accelerating throughout the straights, but they were out accelerated by Red. I mean, when you look at
Only
that
by Red Bull, though. Yeah, and
yeah,
Haas and Magnussen too. I mean, Haas and Aston Martin, but it doesn't matter because those are guys aren't competitive. Yeah.
yeah. When you look at what happens there at the pit straight,
Yeah.
maybe Russell is faster only in that middle stint, but he
Yeah.
can't keep that speed once he's accelerated there, and he loses out towards the end there.
Yeah. I will say
Maybe
that if the rest of that track had been more curvy, Russell might have won because I think most of Max's time actually is gained on that long straight. He because it's all blue there rather than green. You know, the
yeah,
one that's very straight. Yeah.
it's all through the acceleration points.
Yeah, yeah. And then he and
That
he and Russell are about equal when it comes to the corners. Yeah.
sure. It's all through the acceleration points
But the surprise of
that
the
he
thing is that
becomes markedly faster,
yeah,
and he really approaches the corners with a lot more speed
yeah.
than what
Which
Russell
he
did.
didn't have 3 or 4 weeks ago when he was losing a lot of stuff on the straight. So Red